That's basically what happens. Is this guy, he chunk hooks one onto the range to start his round, and then it's the best. You can only get better. And I guess technically we saw that out of Wall. And it's not only Wall last night, but it has been a trend for him. And that injury is what really got him. You know, it's too bad because prior to his injury, and he had a high ankle sprain, and he was out for a long time. Prior to that, he was the man here. And it was coinciding with Samsonov, really falling off. Like, obviously, Samsonov had a terrible start to the year, and Wall had basically grabbed the number one spot from him, and then he gets injured. Samsonov leaves, but Samsonov gets back before Wall really gets back, and now Wall has just not been able to get his season back on track. And as a result, it does feel like, it's going to be Samsonov's net at this point. So now you're relying on Samsonov making sure that he is ready to peak because of these other goalies we're talking about where, if the Leafs play Florida, Bobrovsky is of that upper echelon type. Like, he is capable of being an absolutely dominant goaltender that can steal games.
Any matchup board before a playoff series, and you could go through any team on the East. Mm-hmm. The arrow would go to the other team in the goaltender matchup. Yeah. Every matchup.
Yeah. That's maybe Carolina. Maybe Carolina.
No, Freddie Anderson would get the arrow.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, okay, fine. I'll grant you that, but it's closer. But you're right. Shesterkin, no. Swayman, no. Obviously Vasilevsky, no, and Bobrovsky, no. So you're right. Yeah, the four other big boys in the East, and maybe Carolina, they'd all have a better goaltender on paper. And I think the same thing in Edmonton, Struddy. If it's Ottinger, like maybe if it's Georgiev, you can say it's possible. But I think Adin Hill proved last year that he's capable of being better, and I think I'd feel more comfortable with him in net than I would Skinner at this point, even though Pickard played last night. Ottinger's better. Hellebuck's better. I'm getting worried about Demko, the fact that he's not back yet. I think he will return, though, but Demko's better. I mean, that's the reality of where the Leafs and the Oilers are at, that goaltending position, at most, you're hoping that they play their best hockey and give you a chance to stay in a series. But it's not going to be easy because it's the Achilles heel, I think, of both teams at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Stuart Skinner, what they did last year, I think they overplayed him towards the end of the year, and I thought he was tired. He said he wasn't, but I believe he was, mentally and physically. So, you mentioned last night that Pickard played instead of a Skinner in Dallas. I like that move. They're trying to keep him fresh. He's playing really well. He's giving the Oilers a chance every night, and I think that he's really comfortable in who he is. He's not Hellebuck, and he's not Ottinger, but I mean, those are some of the more elite goalies in the year, especially Hellebuck this year. I think that Colorado's goalie, they have a chance to be the same as him. Vancouver, I'm not sure. Vegas, I know what you're talking about there. Mm-hmm. So there's opportunity for him in some of these, I think, to saw off. Would be, he's not, you're not giving the arrow on those previous ones, but somewhere a saw off. And for the Oilers, that might just be enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of those series, right? That might be enough to get it done. And, looking at Toronto, that the challenge for them is if you don't get the nod in the goaltending. Now you got to make up for it, with obviously scoring the other end, but then other parts of your game, we kind of touched on them earlier. Like, you've got to be really solid defensively and not gift. I use the word gift. Don't gift other teams' goals by poor pinches or bad decisions or wrong coverages, because the more of those you can take out of your game, the better chance you give your goalie to be, to get a saw off.
Yeah, exactly.
In those games.
Yeah.
Struddy, have you not noticed, like, these guys beat the systems to death? Like, there's 4 guys on the bench with iPads and structure and systems. And I think there's dumber decisions made now more than ever. It's almost like they're coaching the rear ends off of these guys, and I still think there's really dumb mistakes out there. Like, how many times do you need to be told, don't pinch there if you're the last guy back? And sure enough, the guy, down they go, a little pinch here. I find it crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I think what I equate it to is that you have to be able to understand your system, but then you have to understand within that system, there's unique plays that you have to read and react to. It's not just go stand here, right?
Yes.
You're not just standing there and hoping. You have to read and react to certain situations. So let's say, for instance, and I'm not saying this is the case, but that the Leafs are doing a full-on pinch. That means that the forwards have to reload every time. Well, if you look up and your forward's not reloading for you, you don't pinch. Like, that's
right.
And I'm sure,
but it seems like they still do it a lot of times.
That's right.
And they go back to the bench and they say, "Well, the forward was supposed to cover me there." It's like, no, bud, he's not. Don't pinch.
And that's exactly it. So those, and I'm not saying that's what happened, but those are the reads you have to have. And then you have to understand, or another question, like, who am I going against? Who am I on the ice against? So am I against Austin Matthews? I'm probably not going for a high risk play here. I'll back off. But if it's Jason Strudwick, let's go all day long. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand where you're at, who you're playing against, who's on the ice with you. Which way is the game going? Like, game management. I think that's one thing that a lot of players struggle with, is understanding the time of the game. Is it the last minute of the period? Are we winning by one on the road? Probably not a time to take a risk. Or, if the one that drives me crazy is we fly down the wing and they take a shot, miss the net, and they clear it all the way out and it goes out their end instead of just
situational awareness, we'll call it, Struddy.
And that's hard to learn, and you're trying to teach them. And I get that's why the iPads are there, but it's sometimes guys get it and some don't. And unfortunately, you a lot of times when you see it's not working, you get burned, as in the examples we used last night.
Well, it's also a much faster game too, right? Like, guys trying to make plays on the fly, trying to make plays as the last man back. Guys are going to burn you, and that happens a lot. And, last night, the Leafs have been playing well. The Oilers have been playing well. Tampa's allowed to perform. Dallas allowed to perform. But the Leafs actually had a really good start to the game, and then Tampa kind of battled their way back into it. But ultimately, you had a couple of things that came out of that game. One, Matthews scores again, this is like a sidebar story that's been hanging over the whole season, and it's been thoroughly entertaining. He scores to make it 63. Now he's 7 away with 7 games to go. I feel like the chasing 70 is going to be alive at a minimum when they get down to Florida. They play their last 2 games of back-to-back, Florida on the Tuesday, I believe it is, Tampa on the Wednesday. But you got Montreal Saturday, a back-to-back with the Devils next week, and then Pittsburgh next Friday or next Saturday. You got 4 games coming up, teams that don't defend that well, aren't that good, all 3 out of the playoffs. Kind of feels like if you could pick your poison here, snap home 7 in the next 4 games, easier said than done, and then go down to Florida and be all business at that point.
Yeah, don't play.
Basically, don't play. Pick one. You're probably going to play one of those games because I'm not sure when they're going to start. I would guess they'll start on the Saturday night, more than likely. But yeah, if you can, and if anyone's going to do it, it would be him. Find a way to snap 2 in Montreal, snap a couple against the Devils, and then go into Pittsburgh next Saturday, being 2 or 3 away, and find the heroics and get it done. 70 at home, go down to Florida, and basically the playoffs will start then. When you fly down there, it's go time.
The Habs are playing hero spoiler hockey right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're tight checking and dialed in. It's like, why are you guys doing that now?
Wow, they're still 6th from the bottom in the NHL right now, I believe.
Guys, if I'm the Habs defenseman on any power play, I just stand beside Matthews.
Yes.
Just stand beside him. I'm like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I don't care if any of those other guys score.
I agree.
I'm not letting him score.
Ovi's been doing it for 20 years, and no one's been smart enough to stand beside him. It's like, let's just leave that guy out there. Boom, back of the net.
But you just go out of your way. Like, you just say, we're just going to stand beside, make the other 4 guys beat us. And I'm not saying those guys aren't skilled, but you don't want to be the team that the guy scores 70 on. I just don't think that's something. Like, 50 is like, oh, wow, good job.
At minimum, Struddy, a stick length away. A stick length.
I would just stand with him. What's the difference? You just mentioned we're 6th worst team in the league.
Yeah.
So if we aren't the team that gives that guy his 70th goal, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Just stand beside him.
That might be the case. Might be
piss him off.
It could be the case. And again, they're in Montreal on Saturday night. And yeah, the Habs are playing better. Suzuki's up over 70 points. Slavkovsky's putting up pretty good numbers. They're a work in progress, much like Ottawa and Calgary. Like, those are the 3 Canadian teams that are all going to have top 10 picks. And that's where your lottery direction is going to be, right? Which one of those 3 teams has the possibility of moving up? Because the bottom 5 is locked in. Like, it's San Jose and Chicago and Anaheim and Columbus. Like, those teams aren't going to budge. But yeah, we'll see what they've got on Saturday night. And then you also had a heavyweight tilt last night that we discussed at length yesterday. Like, do you think Reaves and Jeannot will go? Because they have a history of it before. When Jeannot was in Nashville, they had a tilt in Nashville. There was a pretty good fight at center ice. And that was what was kind of crazy about last night, is that had like a junior vibe. You guys could appreciate this, where it started at the front of the net, and they're like, let's take this to the center. Like, let's walk this out, gloves off, and send, like, because they could have gone right there, and they're like, no, let's get to the middle of the building here. And Reaves popped him, man. Like, Reaves, he didn't knock him out clean, but he hit him hard.
I think that Jeannot's had some coconut problems in the past too.
Yes, and he's tough as nails, and he beats up on guys, and he's willing to take on fights. But like I was thinking last year, remember when he was yelling at Shen and he fought Shen, and then he was on the bench yelling, "We're going again. I'm going to come after you." Like that felt significant last night, even though it was a loss. That if Jeannot's like, I don't think Jeannot's going to be barking or beaking anymore. You know, like there's no more, I'm going to come get you and I'm going to have words.
He's not going to get anybody anymore.
You can't. Like, he might fight Reaves again. I would assume he probably will because he is incredibly tough. He's got serious stones and he's a good fighter. And I would not be surprised if he felt like he needed some sort of a redemption fight in Tampa in a couple of weeks. And I would guess Reaves will probably grant him that. But he was really lippy in the playoffs last year. And now with Reaves there and what Reaves did last night, I'm not sure he can be. I'm not sure he will be if and when they play again.
As I was watching that fight yesterday, the thing that I didn't like about Jeannot's technique is his hands are so low to start the fight. Like if I was fighting Reaves, I'd get my one hand up and try to get a hold of him early. And I think then once you have a hold of him, you have a little bit more control of him. I think he likes to fight kind of free and easy where the guys aren't holding him. So I didn't like that approach by him. It looks cool. It looks really cool. But I wasn't into looking cool. I was into trying to win some fights, or at least not get beat up.
Well, the thing with doing that, if you start your hands down low like that, there's the Kevin BX, the Superman jump that somebody might just pump you right in the head and you could be knocked out before you know anything.
Yeah. And so, but I think that he's a guy they'll probably keep going after. You can't turn that guy off, right? He's like Brad Marchand. They just keep coming at you. But I thought it was an interesting time to take that fight, especially when the game's going like it is. I think I might have left that one on the side.
That was weird. It was 3-1, I think, at that point. And
for Jeannot, I'm saying.
Yes, for Jeannot, exactly. For Tad. Reaves even said it after the game. He's like, I was not expecting that at all. But he asked, and I was like, all right, if you want to go, and I'll get this place going. And then Nick Paul ends up scoring to make it 4-1, and it's curtains at that point anyway. But Kucherov had two assists last night. He set up that point assist or that point goal in front. That puts him to 129 points, which sets a new record down in Tampa that he had established when he won his Hart Trophy a few years ago, which is pretty incredible when you consider Marty St. Louis, Vinny, Brad Richards, Stamkos. Like, they've had some pretty good players over the last 25 years, and it's Kucherov that just continues to rewrite the record books. But, it was a good win for Tampa last night. We'll continue to look back on it. Ken Daneyko's coming up. We haven't caught up with Kenny in a while because you talk about fights, man. It was a wild scene at the Garden in New York last night.
Some people didn't like it, though. They were offended.
Yes, there were some people offended. You're right.
But what I don't understand is the guys on the ice, they decide that that's going to happen. And until the league says you're not allowed to do that, and Struddy, like the guy in the middle for people watching, he used to get involved in that stuff out there, and they decide that that's going to go down. So until you're not allowed to do it, everyone should just be quiet about it. I don't like that. It's offensive to either don't watch it, don't cover it, whatever, it offends you that much. That's what the players decided to do. And at any given night that they can make that happen if they want to make it happen. Who were we talking to the other day that said Billy Guerin and Zdeno Chara were talking under the bleachers in Pittsburgh saying, this is going to go down and Matt Cook better fight tonight. These guys decide they're doing this, and no one says they can't. They get penalties. They get thrown out. And if you don't like it, don't comment on it or don't watch the games if you're that offended by it.
I think you make a great point that if you have an issue with it, direct it at the players, not Gary Bettman.
Yeah, not the league, or the product.
Yes, the players. The league suspended Rempe 4 games for the elbow.
Yes.
Last night, they kicked all of them out. It was not a coincidence that they chose the Lazar-Vesey fight as the first fight on record, right? Which allowed them to throw everyone else out, which included Rempe and McDermott and Trouba and others. And listen, the league, what else are they supposed to do? They didn't promote Fight Night at the Garden. To my knowledge, they haven't promoted anything on social media like, wow, look at this brawl. They suspended Rempe, and then he got in a fight last night, and they threw him out. He didn't get jumped. He didn't get hit from behind. He didn't take a stick to the face. It was 2 grown men, square off, fight. No one got hurt. You move on. I understand sometimes people can get hurt, and that's not easy. And the league, maybe they need to get to the bottom of trying to figure something out in terms of a deterrent. But outside of something extreme, like we're talking 10-game suspensions, 15-game suspensions, which I would argue, watch what you wish for, because what if McDavid drops his gloves tomorrow night, right? Sid's fought before. You want your best players getting kicked out for 10 games because you don't like something? I don't think you want to see that happen, but it's the players. Like you said, the players decided this is important for us. Struddy, you can speak to it.
People on Twitter, TV, they like to just make a statement where like they're just so offended by it. It's like nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Well, people love to either watch it or hate watch it, but it is everyone's got something to say about it.
No, I know.
Everyone
you can
saw
say what you want, but
PR
is PR. Everyone around the sporting world, from Pat McAfee to Sean Merriman to Will Blackmon, who's an NFL guy, like these guys were all tweeting, "This is insane. This is crazy to watch." Like, and I know that's whatever you want to say about that, but I'm sure the NHL. Can you imagine going to that game at the Garden last night, showing up 5 minutes late, and then looking at the guy beside you saying, "What I missed?"
Right,
it'd been rocking. But there's such a feeling. So when you go out there and you know something's going to happen, there is a feeling like I can't explain it. It just.
But Struddy, would everyone on the ice know that was happening?
There'd be a sense that something's. I mean, you know that the two big guys are going to fight, right? You know those guys are going to fight, and then after that, like I couldn't believe how Barclay Grujo skated past the centerman and went after ball. Like usually you fight the guy kind of opposite you,
right?
But he kind of he's like, no, not you. I want this guy. I'm like, all right, what did Ball do to you? Like whatever. But then the other guy's like, well, I got to do something. Like Condre Miller's like, I guess I'll beat up Marino.
He's a
but
big dude.
There is a sense, and there's a sense of camaraderie when you do it, and we're all doing it together. And this is how we do it. And can you imagine those four guys? 2 seconds you play. 2 seconds.
I know.
And then you're sitting all that time, all that prep work to fight. 2 seconds, and off you go.
I don't even think it was registered like on apps and stuff. I was looking online. Like those guys, I don't even think they registered in the game. I guess technically they played 2 seconds. But that's the
2
thing.
seconds.
It was a short bench, right? Like there were 14 skaters and a goalie on each team after the puck dropped. And I, as you said, when we found out, because we were talking about it all day, is Rempe going to be in the lineup? Once he was, and once Travis Green decided McDermott's going to start, Laviolette put him out the ice. I don't know what Lavi was thinking putting Trouba on the ice and Miller. Like why the third pairing didn't start in terms of the potential to lose those guys. No, I know, but
that's your captain. He wants to be out there.
Which I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I guess what I'm saying is maybe that speaks to, maybe that's your answer, that they knew everyone was going. And that's why he was out there. Because if you thought it was only Rempe and McDermott, then it's irrelevant who else is on the ice. You could have Panarin out there. You can have anybody if it's only two guys. But if you're putting all those other guys out there because you think we're all going here, then maybe that is the answer that both sides kind of conceded. This is what's coming. And obviously the Devils have to put in the game sheet first. They started who they started. Laviolette and the Rangers, they countered. And then all hell broke loose.
Old Lavi didn't like it, did he?
But that's how can you not like that. You put Rempe out too. Like he knew McDermott was obviously that's why he's bent out of shape.
No, I know. But for Lavi to act like somehow surprised that went down, he was like, "What, Greeny? What the hell do you think you're doing?" And then you saw Greeny saying, "Just shut the."
Yeah, I know. Shut up. You know it's coming.
You know what it is? It gets it out of the way. It gets it out of the way, right?
Yep.
And let's just go back a few years. Do you think that Scott Stevens would have sat on the bench while Ken Daneyko and Scott Niemeyer are on the ice?
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is my team. Scott Niemeyer, you sit down. I'm going out there with Ken Daneyko, and I'm going to take care of this. Like I love that the crew was out there. I think it was great. I
love it too. And you're right about like if you're the Rangers, you had your fights, home ice, places rocking, and you won the game. Yeah, like you're walking out of there thinking, man, we have serious mojo here. Like start the playoffs tonight, because that would be my assumption. All right, Ken Daneyko coming up. Ken, obviously a long history in that rivalry. I'm sure Ken was involved in a few dust-ups over time. A couple of dust-ups.
Happily.
Yeah.
Happily.
Yes, I think so. So we'll get his take on what went down last night, where it goes from here, if at all, and his take on, again, where the Devils are going, the Rangers are going. We got a big one tonight, too. Pittsburgh, Washington, down in Washington.
Can't wait.
It doesn't get bigger or better than that. Sid versus Ovi, basically,
with
for a playoff spot.
Implications.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's setting up beautifully for the stretch run. It really is. So we got that coming up. Frankie Corrado will join us a little bit later this afternoon. Eric Hosmer on the Jays. We got to get into the Jays. Got to get into the Raptors getting pumped in Minnesota last night. Jason Strudwick in here with the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. I'm Bryan Hayes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Thought of a great idea that I can't believe I haven't thought of in the past. And maybe Doogie can pull something together for later in the hour. I know we did Hazy B versus Struddy. What about Strud or Dud?
I like that. So how do we make that work? Like, what do you have in mind?
I don't know. Dookie's got to whip it together with some different topics, items, and it's if we like it, it's a strud, like our guy Struddy.
Oh, that's right.
By the
like
way, it's going to
stud?
be fantastic in about 30 seconds here. We're going to have two of the dirtiest stick work guys in the National Hockey League that ever played on the show together.
We're trying to bring these two together. Yeah.
I love it. You know, they call him the King of New Jersey. When he was there, all his teammates, his buddy, Scott Gomez referred to him always the King of New Jersey, Kenny D. He just loved this guy.
I love it. All right, strut or dud, man. Let's put that together, Doogie. This is a big opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Because Struddy's getting a lot of compliments online about how he's looking and the background and the vibe. The hair's flowing. Everything's coming together. Everything's coming together
Is it
right
my
now.
birthday today? What's going
is.
on? What are you guys being nice to me for?
Lots of compliments. All right, here he is, longtime Devil, Cup champion, the King of New Jersey, MSG and NHL Network analyst Ken Daneyko. How you doing, Ken?
What's up, fellas? What a panel this is. How did I get roped into coming on with you guys? Oh, my. But good to be on with you, fellas, and I hope you're having a good day.
Yeah, we're having a great day. Do you would you fight against that claim that you and Struddy, two of the dirtiest stick work defensemen of all time, or what?
That's a bad rap. Come on. Okay, I did throw the odd cross check around my net, but having said that, that was okay back then. I wish guys would defend a little harder around the net. I know you're going to take more penalties, but if the puck's going in the net, take the penalty. So I think defensemen at times.
Kenny, I just like to correct you on one thing. I'd like to correct you on one thing. When you said the odd time, that meant every shift, okay? Because every time I was on the ice, you were on the ice. It was every shift.
All right.
Yeah. You didn't have to worry about the puck, Kenny. You'd cross-check someone that passed it to Scott Niedermayer, and then your shift was done. Scotty would do the rest.
I'm not the brightest bulb in of the bunch, but I knew what was going to make me prolong my career and have a successful career, and that was be tough around the net and find Scott Niedermayer. You're absolutely right, and give him the puck at all times. So I didn't want to hang on too long. But anyway, guys, and I know what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Kind of the old days.
Well, it sure felt that way. I mean, I'm sure you had a couple of dust-ups at the Garden in your day, but I mean, everyone's got a different viewpoint on how it all broke out. I think most people, once we saw the starting lineup, Rempe and McDermott, that was going to happen. How did you react to the other 8 guys on the ice dropping the gloves?
Well, look, usually the buildup of something that we know is going to come, and we knew it was going to come because Matt Rempe took 2 majors in consecutive games against the Devils. The last one, a 5-minute elbow and a suspension to Siegenthaler. So you would expect something to happen. That's the nature of the beast. And I want to preface this, guys, with I've gone with the times, the skill, the speed, but this is still a passionate, emotional, physical game. It is what it is. And some are going to like it, some are not going to like it. If we want to start a pond hockey league and try to rival the National Hockey League from a business standpoint, all the more power to you and see if it has any success. There was not a person that didn't turn their TV off or didn't stand up when a rivalry was alive again, even though the Devils aren't even in the picture as far as being a playoff team this year for the most part, and the Rangers having an excellent year. But the Devils have, over this season, few seasons, have been teams have taken liberties on them, and they went out and got McDermott for a reason. And he's a no-nonsense guy. He understood that he has to show that it's not in the organization. It's not going to happen all the time. Now, with everybody getting involved, a lot of guys stepped out of their comfort zone, and I think that was great for the Devils. Believe me, they need to step out of their comfort zone because I think it can bring you together as a team. It just does. It still does. That part hasn't changed. Yes, they have to play their game and use skill and speed, but this year teams were prepared for them. Last year, everything went well. They were unable to slow them down. Well, this year, teams have slowed them down physically, and now they're trying to find that balance. So I loved it from the standpoint, yes, I would have liked the Devils to win a game. They blew another third-period lead. That's been 3 in a row. It has not been their year. They haven't got the job done, haven't played well enough. It ended up being a heck of a hockey game as well from that standpoint. but everybody, whether it was John Marino or Chris Tierney, who journeyman who's been around a long time, who guys that don't actually do this kind of stuff, they just stepped out of the comfort zone and showed that they're going to be there for their team. And the Devils have needed more of this. I'm not saying more fighting. I don't need to see fights every night. Everybody's going to say it's a staged fight. Well, it was staged because of what's transpired the last two times these teams had met, and the Rangers had run roughshod on them. So the two big boys went at it. It was a heck of a goal. The rest of them wrestled on the ice. That's fine. It's not about winning or losing. It's about, showing your teammates you care and you have some motion. And your teammate got hurt last game from a dirty hit. And look, it was pretty exciting from that standpoint for me. But I always preface, guys, look, I love the game today. I don't need to see a fight every night. I don't need to see a fight every 5 nights. But when it's called for, this is our game. It's passionate, and some are going to like it, and it's emotional, and some are not going to. But I'm sure glad they got McDermott, because they needed a guy like that, and he's a guy that understands his role, but he's not a dummy. He just goes about his business, and it makes the Devils feel better, I would think. Most importantly, I would have liked to see a win. No question about it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for them, but it was one of those games. Even Dawson Mercer, I think it was his first career fight shortly after, because Smith got cross-checked into the boards, which I thought could have possibly been a major. Having said that, Dawson Mercer showing some heart and life. He never fought before, and he did pretty darn well against a big guy. I was pretty surprised. So the build-up, usually it never materializes into what you think. Well, it became even more than any of us anticipated. I don't know if those players knew that was what was going to transpire on the opening whistle, but I guess the Devils, for this moment, said all for one, one for all for one, whatever that terminology is, guys. And everybody went for it, and I'm glad nobody was hurt, and I mean that sincerely. That's my take on all that situation.
All right.
Kenny, take us onto the ice. Like, how do you think, I know Rempe and McDermott were going to go because they're going to settle the score and that was going to go down, but how do you think the rest of the guys knew that nonsense was going to go on? Or was it one of those things where it's like somebody just says to you, we're going to? Like, take us on the ice. Like, how do you think it all shook out on the ice?
Well, I don't know exactly, and maybe I'll find out more when I'm around the team. But having said that, Doug, I think everybody was uncertain. I think maybe from both teams, besides Rempe and McDermott, and it just kind of materialized. Both teams said, "Well, we're getting this out of the way. Everybody's going to get involved," and it was a good old-fashioned line brawl. We haven't seen that much, but these two teams, and I've been part of it as well, for a lot of years, have done this many times when it was more acceptable. They did it in 2012. The coaches got heated. Rivalries is what it's all about for me. And that passion and love and hatred for each other, regardless where you are in the standings, I think always has to be there at times. Doesn't mean you have to fight every night. No, it's about winning a hockey game and making plays, even more so in today's game with how skilled the guys are. It's pretty incredible, and the creativity everyone has. But for me, I think that was something the New Jersey Devils needed badly. I really do. And I know everybody say, well, they're meaningless game. They're not really in the hunt. That's the year they've had. They need to rally around something. And you guys know that. Jason, as players, and going into next season or down the stretch the rest of the way this year, it's about bringing guys together again and showing we've got to be more united, especially when teams are taking liberties on us.
So, Kenny, I look at this roster, and the Devils are a fun team to play or to watch play, but I felt they're a little undersized. Everywhere where they have one forward or two forwards over 6'1". Is that a fair comment, or is it about the fight in the dog? How do you evaluate this forward group?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment. I mean, and I know General Manager Tom Fitzgerald wants to address some needs along the way. Last year, again, I talk about everything went their way. Terrific season. We were proud of them. They took a huge leap. Was that realistic at the time? Probably not. It was from one year to the next an all-time record for increase in points and wins. And so this year, expectations get higher. Teams play you tighter. They play you harder. Exactly what I'm kind of talking about. Take a few more liberties because you're not the heaviest team. And it showed this year. And, yeah, obviously injuries and goaltending, you don't want to make excuses, but that was a big factor as well. But it's all part of growing pains in a process, I believe, for a young team core group that I think has an incredibly bright future. But it's how they deal with this year and the disappointment because they did not play good enough. They know that. And they have to come together as a team and sometimes rally around 1 point in a season. Maybe it's yesterday. Maybe they understand. It's going to take more. You play every shift like it's your last, as they like to say, and like it means something, and there wasn't enough of that consistently this year. But do I think they need to address a little size? No question. If you can find guys that can play and are heavier on pucks and are guys that can win battles and compete a little harder, well, you need that balance, that nice mixture, and I think it's opened the eyes of the Devils management as well.
It's always great catching up with you, Ken. We appreciate the insight, and we'll do it again real soon. Thank you for this.
My pleasure, guys. Good being on with you, and have a great rest of the day. And, O-Dog, I did not use my stick every night. Come on now.
Kenny, you got to understand what it was like for me being in my 20s, and every time I went on the ice, it was you and Scotty out there, and it was a goddamn nightmare. Okay, I'll just tell you that.
That's the only way I could stop you, pal. That's the only way. That's my explanation.
There you go.
All right.
It worked. Thanks, Ken. There's Ken Daneyko. So, Struddy, you made it because we've been doing this together, myself, and Noodles, for a decade. I've been doing shows with Noodles for even longer than that. And there's a long history of players that come on this show, and they make a point of pointing out that played in the National Hockey League.
No, the
Noodles
comment
played.
is, Struddy, it's like, Jamie and Jeff, you guys would know.
You guys know that. O-Dog and Jason, you know, as players.
And they never say Brian.
Like, I don't have a clue what he's talking about.
Right.
And, what are you
No,
gonna
the
do?
King Daddy topper was Bryan Hayes has been to Maple Leaf Gardens more than any of us. Okay. And one time Gino Retta was on and he said, Noodles, O-Dog, you guys know Maple Leaf Gardens, right? And Hayes was like, I've been there more than anyone. Anyone.
Yeah.
And Gino still gave it to him.
Because you're right. It wasn't about playing there. It was about like the seats.
Just the building.
Yeah, the building.
Seats.
Like, hey, when you get out.
And I remember you
Station.
throwing your arms up in commercial, and you were like, "Does he think that I would not know about that building? I've been there more than anyone."
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a good one.
The king, though, Kenny Daneyko. So I'll tell a quick story. Scott Gomez was his roommate, was rookie year. Scott Gomez is 18. Ken Daneyko is a legend. So he says their first road trip, they go into the room and he picks a bed, he sits there, and all of a sudden he hears Kenny yelling in the bathroom, no, yelling. He's like, oh my God. So he walks around the corner, looks around the corner. Ken Daneyko has his shirt off and flexing. He's like, no, I can't be this strong. I can't be this strong. Like, Scotty's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. He said he didn't sleep that night. He was so scared.
I couldn't sleep that night.
Imagine trying to sleep with Ken Daneyko in your room. No,
I'll tell you what. You want to talk
grizzly
about
bear.
a guy that maximized, keep it simple. And he did have the luxury of going out there with Scotty Niedermayer and Scotty Stevens and go in the corner, cross-check somebody, physical battle, get the puck, and then a little look to the right and D to D, baby.
Yeah. Easy.
Well, it's amazing. You look at his stats, like not a ton of second assists, which you figured he might get, like getting to Niedermayer and moving up ice.
Yeah, because they were so good in the neutral zone. Kenny Daneyko would step up and poke check somebody that had their head up, their rear end, and then just shovel it up to the forwards for a 3-on-1, and you get an assist.
Right.
Scotty said too, like sometimes they'd be playing at whatever, teams playing, not playing great. Maybe Kenny would score a goal. There'd be a TV timeout, and Kenny be skating up and down the bench. Looks like it's just you and me today, Marty. Like Marty Berger, it's just you and me tonight, buddy. I'm like, was he serious? Like, I think he was serious. And they had like Scott Stevens, Niedermayer, Newendijk, all these studs. He's just you and me tonight, buddy.
I love it. 36 goals in 1,283 games.
Oh, man.
That's just outstanding. What a career.
Yeah, a legend.
Yeah.
He is a legend.
He is a legend. He's great, man. He's great to have on. And, you guys would know. It's the thing of beauty. You know what my favorite one was? It wasn't even necessarily, it wasn't within the conversation. It was on the way out saying goodbye. There was a guy once like, oh, Noodles, see you later. Great talking to you guys. Yeah. And I'm like, what? I can't get in on a goodbye? Like, I get it. I don't need to be a part of the hockey analogy.
Oh, Noodles, great to be on with you. Have a great day.
Yeah, see you later.
Say goodbye to Brent.
Yeah, exactly. That would be it. Kevin or Brent or whatever his name is. All right. I think we're going to try to debut Stud or I can't be Stud. Oh. Strud or Dud. It could be Stud.
Jeez.
It is a play on words, right? It could be.
Quick.
Strud or Dud.
Strud or Dud. Okay, we're going to do that. Frankie Corrado's coming up. Frankie's going to join us in studio. Dreg's still to come. Eric Hosmer. We'll get into the Jays, the Raptors, what happened with them last night. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Frankie Corrado coming up. Strud or Dud will make its debut.
Can't wait, man.
I
Can't
love it.
wait.
I love it. We're Strud or Dud's coming up in like 10, man. You guys better have your heads on straight.
Dude, Doogie better, like this is on Doogie. He better have pulled together some questions for Strud or Dud, and I'm so jacked for it.
Yeah.
It's gonna light up the internet.
It's going to be outstanding. You're going viral, Strud. You're going viral.
It's a perfect way to wrap up a Thursday. Busy little Thursday over here.
It is. Yeah, Bed Bath & Beyond and a little Strud or Dud. Everything's coming together for the boys. So we got that coming up. Eric Hosmer coming up. The Jays, man, they desperately needed an off day. And that says something about how things are going. They're 7 games in. They're a week into the season, and they're like, thankfully, we got a day off. Like, whew, we needed a day off because...
I know I got to fly, but just think about the synergy of business and sports. Come on down and check out our new seats in the Dome and watch guys dribble it to second base all night long.
Wow.
Like, are you kidding me?
It's a mess. It's a mess. Like
Dude, I told you I smelt a pair of shorts on the floor, and I was right.
Right. Yeah, you were right about that. You smelt a pair of shorts on the floor, and it's from a marketing standpoint, the offseason could not have been worse.
Worse.
It could not have been worse. Right. And now the way they start, they get no hit and 1 hit in the same series, and they had 1 hit of substance. It won them a game, the David Schneider home run. But what bothers people more than anything is that he didn't play yesterday. Yes. And then they get 1 hit.
For him to come out and say, it's just we mapped this out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to say, sometimes life's like IKEA. You got to follow it step by step. And other times you just got to say, screw it, and you got to do what's right to do. And that was just it's an embarrassment.
It's an embarrassing decision, but as we all know it, it's Barrios to Kikuchi. It's Ron the plane from Tampa to Houston, and there is no human element. They made up their decisions before the series started. Schneider's not playing, and it's
people are pissed before they're going to get to that ballpark for their home opener. And if they stink the joint out while they're in there, and they can't hit worth crap, and it's a mess in there, they're going to have a problem on their hands, and someone's going to get gassed. I'll tell you that right now for free.
The problem, you have to reward guys for success. And, he hits that big
That's the
home
whole
run.
idea of the game, Struts.
Yeah, you got to, you come in, you do what you asked you to do, or more than we asked you to do, and we're going to reward you for that. And that's in any sport, not just baseball. And that's what kind of gets people motivated. Okay, if I do well, I got a chance here. And if you never get a chance to move up or to do more, where's the incentive all the time?
That sounds like a Strud or Dud topic that we're going to get to next. All right, Strud or Dud is about to be unveiled to the world. This is going to change people's lives. Frankie Corrado will join us as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.